All right, everyone. Today, we're going to tackle artificial intelligence, but we're going to approach it from a slightly different angle than you might expect. We're not diving straight into the code or the complex algorithms. Instead, we're going to look at AI through a really powerful, and I think you'll find incredibly insightful lens, the lens of economics. By framing AI as an economic force, we can get a much clearer picture of how it's actually shaping industries, our decisions, and, well, pretty much everything. Let's get into it. So, to get started, I want to pose a central question, a big idea that will guide our entire discussion today. What if the most revolutionary thing about AI isn't the technology itself, but what it does to the price of something fundamental? This little shift in perspective, from seeing AI as just a cool new tool to seeing it as something that's changing the cost of a basic economic input, is absolutely critical. And this framework, this whole way of thinking, it comes from some really groundbreaking work by three economists, Agrawal, Gans, and Goldfarb. They argued that if you want to understand the true economic function of AI, you have to boil it down to its absolute core utility. And what is that utility? They say it's prediction. They argue that AI, at its heart, is a prediction machine. This simple idea lets us cut through all the hype and analyze AI's impact with real precision. Now, it's super important that we're all on the same page about what we mean by prediction here. We're not talking about fortune telling or looking into a crystal ball. Nope. In this economic context, prediction is much simpler. It's the process of using information you have to generate information you don't have. It's basically a fancy way of saying filling in the blanks. Think about it. Identifying an object in a picture? That's a prediction. Forecasting next month's sales? That's a prediction. Flagging a potentially fraudulent credit card transaction? You got it, that's also a prediction. Okay, so here we get to the absolute heart of the argument. You know how the microprocessor made arithmetic unbelievably cheap, and how the internet made communication practically free? Well, artificial intelligence is doing the exact same thing, but for prediction. This one specific task, using data to fill in informational gaps, is becoming a commodity. So the main thing to grasp is that AI represents a massive systemic drop in the price of a key economic input. And history shows us, time and time again, what happens when a fundamental resource like this becomes cheap and easy to get. We start to use it a whole lot more. And we start using it in all sorts of new and creative ways we never imagined. Think about cheap electricity. It didn't just give us better, cheaper light bulbs. It completely transformed society. It powered factories, homes, and led to countless new inventions. We are seeing the exact same dynamic play out with prediction. Because it's getting so cheap, we're applying it to solve problems we never even thought of as prediction problems before. This, of course, leads us to a really critical follow-up question. If prediction is becoming a cheap, automated commodity with its cost plummeting towards zero, what becomes more valuable? Because in economics, that's how it works. When one thing gets cheaper, something else, its complement, often gets more expensive. And this slide right here shows us the answer. It's this concept of economic complements. So as the cost of prediction plummets thanks to AI, the value of its human complement, which is judgment, goes through the roof. An AI can give you a prediction, but it takes a human to use judgment to decide what to do with it. An AI can identify 1,000 potential risks, but a person has to apply an ethical framework to decide how to act. An AI can estimate the likely outcomes, but a human, a leader, has to be the one to take accountability for the final call. So, what does this all mean for businesses and organizations in the real world? Well, the research is pretty clear. The companies that are getting the biggest wins from AI aren't the ones just plugging it into their old processes. Not at all. The real winners are the ones that are fundamentally redesigning their entire operation around this new reality of cheap prediction. This adaptation really happens in 3 stages. First, organizations bring in AI to automate all those predictive tasks, and that drives down costs. But then comes the second, and honestly, the hardest part. You have to completely rethink your workflows. You have to ask, who makes what decisions now that the predictions are automated? And finally, stage 3 is where you reallocate your people. You move them away from doing the predicting and elevate their roles to focus on the things the machine can't do, exercising judgment, applying ethical oversight, and ensuring good governance. Let's make this a little more concrete. Imagine you were in finance or accounting. The arrival of cheap prediction means you have to reevaluate everything. You have to redefine your internal controls, because now an AI can monitor every single transaction for anomalies in real time. It means you have to revise your approval processes, because a machine can do a lot of the initial legwork. And most importantly, your whole risk governance framework needs an overhaul to account for these powerful new predictive tools. And this brings us to our final thought. It's a question I really want you to carry with you, not just through this course, but throughout your careers. As the process of prediction becomes more and more of a cheap, automated commodity, you have to ask yourself, what is the uniquely human, high judgment, high accountability thing that you bring to the table? Because answering that question, that is the absolute key to thriving in the new economic landscape that AI is creating right before our eyes.